Welcome, everyone, to It's Fine, an official podcast of Broken Arrow Public Schools on the Arrow Vision Network. I'm your host, Adam J. Foreman, and we are discussing all things fine art today, but particularly the band programs and the drama programs at Broken Arrow High School. So I want to welcome my guests today. I'll start, and you just tell me a little bit about yourself when I go around. We're going to start with Mr. Darren Davis, Director of Bands. Hi, Darren.
Hey, how are you doing, Adam? Thank you for having us here.
Hey, yeah, tell me a little bit about yourself for the listeners that don't know.
Well, for our listeners.
Yes, listeners, all three of them.
This is not my first year at Broken Arrow. I grew up in the program, and I'm serving in my 29th year as a band director in the Broken Arrow School District.
Very nice. Very cool. And we have Dr. Richard Dale, Director of the Fine Arts Programs here. Hi, Dr. Dale.
Hey, Adam. How are you?
See, listen to that. He's got that radio voice, too. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Dr. Dale.
I have been an administrator of one type or another here in Broken Arrow for 21 years.
Dang, that's
amazing. And I'm currently Fine Arts Director.
Fantastic. And finally, Miss Jana Ellis.
Last but certainly
not least. I amen to that. Speech and drama here at the high school. Tell us a little about yourself.
Fantastic. Hi, and thanks so much for having us
I'm
here
glad
today.
to have you on here today.
So awesome.
Yes.
To highlight the fine arts. Hi, I'm Jana Ellis, and I am the Director of Theater here at Broken Arrow High School. I am in my 20th year, so it's an anniversary year for me teaching.
Wow.
And this will be my 7th year here at the senior high and 6th being head of the department.
Fantastic. Now, were all of you all at grade levels here your whole careers, or have you done every grade level, every span of it?
I've taught from the 6th grade level through high school level in the years that I've been here. I spent about 10 years at North Intermediate and serving at Haskell Middle School and worked with the Pride for all the 29 years I've been here, and then gradually matriculated to the high school.
So you're you're the school killer. First you shut down North, then you shut down Haskell.
Hey, you got to have goals, right, to be the school killer. Every school that I think I've taught at, except for the high school, doesn't exist anymore. There you go.
That sounds cool.
And when I got here, Dr. Dale, you were at South Intermediate, which also, quote-unquote, doesn't exist anymore.
That is true. I was principal at South for 14 years.
Wow. And Jana, what grades?
I started at Childers Middle School, taught there for about 6 years, and then I moved to South Intermediate and worked with Dr. Dale there for about 6 years, and then moved up to the senior high.
So you and Darren have a special place in heaven for middle school teachers because middle school kids are fun.
Word.
So let's do this. Let's flash back 1 year ago and how different the world is-ish. Because, we're still in a very different world, but in the fine arts world, which relies on audiences and all the participation, how did you learn how to pivot in your programs? Let's start with you, Jana.
Okay. Well, yes. I mean, obviously, there's such a huge difference in our world, but last year I was determined, after we were sent home for spring break the year before and never returned, that I, especially for my seniors' sake, but for all my students, I was determined to try to carry on as much as possible and allowed by the district to do as close to the normal things. We normally do about 4 productions, and last year we did 4 productions.
Oh, wonderful.
And all 4 of them were live.
Well, and I saw other schools, kids doing whole musicals in masks, and I was like, How does that happen? How do you even interpret the face and the movement? How does that happen?
Well, and we didn't for our performances. So
Wonderful.
How we were able to protect the kids and ourselves as we navigated through last year in live performances. The students, of course, all rehearsed in masks. A pivot was choosing smaller cast productions and productions where there were fewer people in each scene. So not as many people were on stage together at the same time singing, etc. But from the fall play through directing showcase to one act and the musical, the kids all rehearsed in mask. We had chairs marked with T-shirts over the back, and so they were at least 6 feet apart from everybody else in every rehearsal. And then when it came time to perform, the crew was all in masks backstage, and the kids, just before they entered, took their masks off. And the audience was all separated, and the Performing Arts Center, which housed all of our productions last year, was able to trace every audience member. So they, first of all, they were separated, and whole sections were blocked off. And then we had their information. So if anything was reported, they could easily call any person. And I'm super happy to report in 4 live productions, and I don't know any other theater department that did it.
Knock on every piece of wood you
Knock
have.
on every piece of wood. What I'm about to say, there was no reported incident of COVID, either on stage, backstage, or in the audience.
Fantastic. Well, and Darren, your kids can't wear a mask when they play an instrument that uses their mouth. So you had a whole different world to pivot in.
Yeah, there was nothing about last year that was ideal, right? But it's about how do you keep kids engaged and still try to keep the ball moving with student instruction. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, we talked about being a special place for middle school teachers in heaven. For them to start beginning students last year and them not even to be able to physically even see them every day was as much as that we did some distance learning. And trying to teach beginning band through Zoom is never ideal. But I'm so proud of what our teachers did to be able to find that way to still get that individualized instruction to the kids about here's how you form your mouth, here's how you the fingerings that you do. I mean, all the challenges it takes to start a beginner are exacerbated even more through the challenges we had last year with COVID. But carry that all the way through to our upper level grade students. We had to do what we do, which is hopefully provide great experiences for kids to perform and make meaningful musical experiences. And that was certainly challenged last year with COVID. So we just had to kind of reinvent ourselves a little bit. The marching band still, because we were 100% outside, it was easier for us to still do something that looked and sounded and felt similar to what we did before. It just didn't involve competition.
And that impacted your show too, right? The kind of show you did?
It did. It gave us an opportunity to do some things that we probably wouldn't normally do if we were under the competitive setting. So yeah, we rocked out and had some fun doing some Queen music last year, and we are
sure
the champions.
The audience loved that. Absolutely.
Hey, who doesn't have fun listening to
They love
to
familiarity,
Queen?
Broken Arrow was one of the only schools in the area that actually did a marching band show.
Interesting. Well, and I saw a stat yesterday that we were in class 86% of the school year.
Yes.
But when you think about that, you think, okay, it didn't feel like it. So imagine if you were only in class 50% of the year. Like that little 20-something percent really took a toll on you.
Well, without doing competitions, we had maybe one of the most talented senior classes we've ever had. And so it wasn't about disengaging what those seniors got to do. We wanted to find other opportunities for them. So it gave us, the win was, it got us to commit to being more engaged with our community. So we did some more nursing home performances that we had never done before, and how gratifying what that was to share music with those that may not have had that opportunity. And, with the concert bands and wind bands, it gave us an opportunity to think about, small groups, getting them the chance to rehearse and do what we call chamber ensembles. It did nothing but kind of create a greater sense of depth in what our students provided. So there's some wins to take out of last year, as challenging as it was to carry into the future with this year and beyond. That we learned a lot from last year and learned how to teach, I think, even better as teachers throughout the district.
Well, I think it showed you guys what you're capable of, that you can pivot at a moment's notice, which, let me just put a disclaimer, I can't stand the word pivot, but for some reason that's the one that was always used last year. Dr. Dale, how did you handle kind of the overarching of everything, not just band and drama, but choir and fine arts, everything that was affected in that manner?
I think last year we did the best we could to do normal. But knowing that every week you couldn't count on normal being there, and you just had to take every week as it came. And we came up with some interesting ideas to, like, videotaping and live streaming some concerts. And so every area sort of developed their own answers.
When you talk about live streaming, I think that was a huge plus for some of you to be able to do. I know sometimes there's copyright stuff which won't allow a live stream, but when you could, being able to broadcast that to how many extra thousand people that may have never set foot in the PAC or any other organization or event center, et cetera. So that's kind of like one of those happy accidents that showed up. Well,
yeah,
for me anyway.
It was. We actually did our getting away from band and drama for a second, but we did our visual art district art show online, and we had thousands of people.
Yeah, I saw that stat the other day. It was like in the 5 digits of people that visited that. That's fantastic. Well, here we are in 2021. We're back in school for, 2 months now? Has it been 2 months already?
Just about.
So that means competition season is coming up. So, Janet, you've got some one-act stuff coming up. Tell me about that.
We are smack dab in the middle of it. And I do want to say, going back to last year really quick, that our videoed performance on our stage of our one act traveled from regionals, broke to state, and took third at state last year.
Excellent.
We didn't get to go, but the video did, traveled around. This year, we are back to the normal competition season, and we've already done the first competition last weekend, the Union Invitational, and we came back with a first place rating, and all 4 of our leads had medals around their neck for all-star actors, and we are going to be heading to the PAC tomorrow to do some more fine-tuning and catch-up, and then go to competition again for the OSSAA Regionals on Saturday.
About how many schools participate in that?
There's several schools in the Oklahoma City side of the state, as well as the Tulsa side, and so our regionals are Tulsa area schools. I think there are 7 at our competition, and then there are 2 other sites with 7 or 8 in the Oklahoma City area. So there'll be 3 regionals across the state happening this weekend, and just in 6A. And of course, that's what we're in, but there's also plays in 5 and 4A as well. So lots of plays. Probably we will be competing with about 21 to 25 schools.
That's a good little ratio there.
Yes.
That's great. Are these all originals, or are they plays that have been written for a while? Are they any student-produced and written ones at all?
No, it's part of the rules that we select a produced play.
Gotcha.
So
interesting. Well, and you've got competition season coming up.
We're up on it.
Quickly.
It's, yeah, we call it's Bandtober is where we are right now. There's something going on all the time.
I've never heard that before, but I love
That's
it.
Awesome.
Well, so from taking 1 year off, you think about this, 1 year off of a 4-year program means that when you go year 2, that means half of your program has never been experienced into a competition before. Let that sink in for a minute.
Whoops.
And then times 300 students, so that means about 150 of our 300 students have never been involved in the competition setting before. So there's a re-education going on that there is nothing taken for granted right now that we have to, as teachers, we have to let our students get a chance to teach each other, here's what the competitive setting is like, and to restart that machine in motion into what competitions are. And on the surface, it looks like it's about scores and placements and trophies, but the education of what we believe in the Pride is it's about performance. It's about performance experience and performance quality. And then the ratings, the numbers, the trophies, they're just a byproduct of that hard work that you work towards into rehearsal settings. So we use several analogies, like when we go to a contest. We'll tell our students, look, it's at the end of the day, it is a contest. We can't control what band X, Y, and Z does at an event, just as Miss Ellis can't control what the other drama programs are at the one act.
Right.
But what we can control is us. And so there's nothing wrong with wanting to have a medal around your neck at the end of the day. That just shows that you care. But if you have to have that medal around your neck to validate why you've been working so hard and what you've been doing, then we're probably doing it for the wrong reason.
Right.
So we use that analogy quite a bit just to keep things in check. And that's going to be even more important for every band across America, because there was nothing last year competitively, and now we're re-immersing ourselves back into the competitive machine. And to me, it's important that we keep things in perspective, that it's about the performance, not about the rating and the number.
And you guys go to like invitationals, right? Is that the kind of competition around here?
Invitational season has begun, and the Bands of America does a regional format of over 20 events around America to different regional events. We'll be traveling to the St. Louis Super Regional, which is one of 3 super regionals that are geographically separated throughout America. We travel, it's a 2-day event and competition with 60 bands from, I think it's 14 or 15 different states. So one of the great things about that is being regional with what we see and what our kids experience. They're going to get a chance to make friendships and view other colleagues from around America as we move into the Bands of America season. And that finishes for us at the Grand National Championships in Indianapolis in November.
No pressure on that, you know.
Well,
big lofty goals.
I'll tell you
love
what,
it.
there of 365 days a year, there's about 360 of those days a year that it is the absolute best thing in the world to be the Broken Arrow director of bands. There's about 5 days it's a little stressful. And the stress is not the competition. It's all the machine and mechanics behind the scenes to make the production work.
Well, and it's a very big machine with the parental involvement, student involvement, props, costumes, choreography. I mean, it's a machine. It's a machine.
It's a never-ending project, and I tell you what, with parents, they're having to re-energize the machine and the volunteer machine that we kind of lost last year, and so it's a great chance for us to reconnect with parents and get them re-energized. But I mean, just quite simply, we couldn't do what we do in the fine arts without the support of parents, and when they're invested in what their young person's doing, it's a win-win. I mean, what parent doesn't want to be close to seeing their kid and seeing that expression on their face after they finish performing? There's no substitute for that for a parent, and what they can gain with their kid is to see that emotion. And what we hopefully teach in the fine arts, is to teach our young students to give back, to give more than they get.
I'm going to go on a side note rabbit trail out of nowhere. I'm a singer, and I actually never sang in public till I was 20 years old. My dad was a huge baseball guy, and he wanted me to be this amazing pitcher, which was never going to happen. I'm not an athlete. But the first time he ever saw me sing in public, he came up to me afterwards and he said, "I'm so glad you're not a baseball player." So that was just like such validation of like, yeah, see, I have other skills I can do. I don't have to throw a curveball, which he taught me to, he changed my hand when I was little. I used to be left-handed. He changed me to right-handed so he can teach me how to throw a curveball. Hey, that's Dad.
That's what it's all about, right?
Right, yeah. That's Oklahoma for you. But you mentioned parents. Let's talk about parents, because the sacrifices that they have to make for their kids, getting them to and from places, the money, the time. How important are parents in this whole aspect?
Being a former parent, I mean, I guess I'm still a parent, but my kid's out of school.
A former fine arts parent.
Yeah. It is just a full-time job. It's every weekend. It's every afternoon, toting and carrying and waiting on.
Oh, yeah, the waiting. Especially when they're that younger age, dropping them off, picking them up, dropping them out. When they finally get that license, oh, get out of here, go to practice. I mean, you have a good parent group with your kids too, right?
I have a great parent group, and it's growing. And this year we've started this summer working for the official booster club, and so we've got some really invested parents.
You have an official booster club?
You're
getting to.
We are getting to it.
Oh,
and we're headed to the final step, and they're very energized and they're very supportive, and taking a lot that every year the parents are like, hey, at back to school meeting, like, hey, I can help you, and I'm like, year after year, 20 years, I've been saying, thank you so much, and then just trying to do everything by myself, and I finally, it took me a minute.
Sanctioned.
But this year, I'm like, you know what, let's take them up on that.
Yeah.
And here they are again, different parents, but they're just as ready to be there for what their child loves to do, and
absolutely.
They're there to not just pick them up and schlep them around, but to cheer for them and to cry with them when they don't get the role that they want or the solo or whatever.
That never happens.
Yeah, but
We have parents that their kid is long graduated and they're still helping out with the different programs.
Oh, wow. Darren, you had something.
Yeah, I was just going to tell a quick little story about, we just recently unveiled kind of our Pride Show production for the year, which is called The Edge of Eternity.
Ooh,
and
mysterious.
once you see all the costumes and the set pieces, props that we're using out on the field, so the parents have been working tirelessly to make all those things happen behind the scenes. And when it finally came together at that Saturday night reveal, you could just see, here's burly, strong men just bawling like little babies.
Weeping.
Yes,
The parents who spent tirelessly hours of sewing and doing the things to get our kids in a uniform, and all the different divisions it takes to run those operations to support the program. It was even more worth it, not only to see our reaction of our kids, but to see how proud our parents were that their work went in to support these kids and be successful.
It's that investment.
Oh my gosh, it's
investment.
those are one of the best days to be the director of bands at Broken Arrow.
That's not the five.
That's one of the days.
I mean, the giant props that he used, you can't go to Kmart and purchase them.
What is this Kmart you speak of?
Yes. Those exist still?
To drive to Kentucky to go to one?
Those are created by a group of really talented parents.
Well, and do they kind of like mirror their kids? Because you kind of can see like the ones that are involved because their kids are really into it and loving all of it. So speaking of kids, let's talk about that for a second. Last year, you had to come up with some, fresh ideas to keep them engaged during a pandemic. What are some of those ideas you came up with, and how have they bled over into this school year? I'm going to put you on the spot.
Well, there's no doubt that the outreach we did to the community last year is something that we can't ever ignore again, because without our community, we're nothing, right?
And so, say that one more time.
Yeah,
that's a great
it's true.
catchphrase. Yes.
And so they're the stakeholders of our program, and so it's so important that we can't forget that we get so busy doing the things that are individual for us as a group that we're not doing our best job that we can do to support athletics and to support all the other stakeholders throughout the program. And whether it's doing a parade down Main Street or one of our Sounds of the Stadium events that we can give back, or create a canned food drive that we're going to do as we do a send-off to Grand Nationals, I don't think we can underscore that level of commitment to the community works both ways. And our community has been nothing but the most supportive over. We're almost a 100-year-old band program now.
When is that year? When is that celebration year going to happen?
It'll be 2029.
2029. I'll be 23 years old. I mean, so young. That's a lie.
Some of my students think that I was the band director when we were founded in 1929.
I love it. What about you? What about engagement?
I agree 100% and feel the same way and have done the same things. It started a few years back when we were invited to the Union Invitational One Act competition. Part of the competition, and one thing that earns a trophy each year, is each school that competes with their One Act play selects a charity. Oh. And throughout the day of watching plays, all of the audience members, the cast members and crew give to the different charities. And starting with that year, I was like, because I would pick a charity that had a connection to the show. One year it was Blue Star Mothers, and we've gone to March of Dimes this year, and we've picked several different ones that kind of went along with the theme of the show that we were doing.
Well, then you're teaching a dual line for those kids,
Absolutely.
Not only fine arts but community giving.
Absolutely.
And that creates such synergy for everybody. So, fine arts, let's talk about this for a second. The future of fine arts. And let me back that up real quick. So Oklahoma and Broken Arrow are pretty well known for producing some amazing fine arts talent nationally, internationally. I mean, I don't think I have to say her name, but Miss Kristen Chenoweth, I mean, she's a mega star, started right here in 1986, well, before that, but when she graduated. What do you think builds these future fine arts kids in our program? What makes them be that person after graduation and beyond? I'm gonna throw it to you, Dr. Dale. Let's see what you got in there.
Okay.
I love putting people on the spot. It's so much fun.
I think that we continue to do some of the things that we know are really good for kids here in BA. We continue to engage. Fine arts just teaches so many different life skills. Almost no place else are you going to learn how to do something with the excellence that it takes with what we do. I mean, how do you teach somebody to do something the very best it can be done? And that's what we do. That's
a wonderful answer, because how do you do that? How did that just naturally come out of you? And how do those kids absorb that?
Well, I hope that at the end of the day, we're teaching kids, whether it's the first day they pick up an instrument in the 6th grade or they're about to graduate, that we're building life skills and character skills. And it's, at some level, it's about doing right over being right. And the one wish that I certainly have for our students and our kids is that we create lifelong consumers of the arts, whether that means that they go to a Toby Keith concert, or that they're a subscriber to the Broadway series at the Tulsa Performing Arts Center or at the Broken Arrow Performing Arts Center, to do something to be engaged and to still be a consumer and advocate for the arts of what they got through their training from beginning grades of school till they graduate, of what it's meant to them along the way. And there's not one person, not one, that you will meet as a graduate that will say, can you share something about your music experience, your theater experience that you had in school? And they will probably have a novel to talk to you about.
I was going to say multiple stories.
Absolutely.
Easily. What about you, Miss Jana?
The same. We all know, but it can't be said enough. I think that the fine arts support all the core subjects. Specifically speaking of theater, no, they're not all going to be Tony and Emmy winners like our friend KC, but they leave our program having been challenged personally, having developed confidence, and knowing that win, lose, or draw, it's not about that. It is about pursuing excellence in everything that we do. And that the knowledge that we've done our best and can put our head to pillow each night with no regrets just beats about everything. And to Darren's comment about running into people, I mean, it happens all the time. I see parents of my students after a production, and they'll come up and I see these guys, that I would never in a million years, judging a book by its cover, think they had anything to do with theater, but they're just there to support their kid, maybe wanted him to be a pitcher.
Yeah, that was me.
But then they start talking to me and said, oh, yes, I took theater, and I was so excited when my child decided to take drama in school. It changed my life, and what they're doing as a career has nothing whatsoever to do with performing arts, but the arts change people's lives.
Do you have to excuse yourself for a minute when they
I
tell you
do.
these things?
I absolutely do.
Feeling something.
I mean, I understand. I was a drama kid in school. I was also in the band, and I'm a singer. So I been involved in the arts my
You're
whole
a
life.
triple
But
threat.
I actually am. Yes. But yes, I know firsthand. I could sit down and give a novel about my teachers along the way and how they said the one thing that changed a direction for me in my life, or an experience performing that changed the direction of my life. So, yes, I'm a big advocate for what we do, and all of us in the fine arts department. And in Broken Arrow, we are supported to do things. I was so grateful last year for the opportunity, because I looked at all my contemporaries around the Tulsa and Oklahoma City area, and they weren't allowed to do what my students and I were allowed to do last year. And we were very careful and very safe, but we were still allowed to do it and encouraged to do it. And that meant everything to my students. And this year we're back as close to normal as possible.
As you can be.
As close to normal in a department that's completely
Yes.
not normal.
Well, we're going to wrap up real quick. We've hit our 30 minutes because we could drone on for hours if we wanted to. It could really happen. But one thing I noticed that's common in all of you and your contemporaries is the word passion. Because if you don't have a passion for it, then what's the point of doing it? And I think you guys instill that in your kids every single day. So thank you so much for doing that. It's
Thank you so much
fantastic.
for having us.
for having us.
Well,
Yeah.
do you have any comments, any last minute words? Because now's the time.
Well, now's the time for everyone. Come back to the events that you may have not gone to last year. They're going to be restarted again.
Yes.
Come support these fine young artists, whether they're in their elementary schools, middle school, up through the high school productions, and you won't be disappointed, I promise you.
Absolutely.
That's a great way to leave it. Well, thank you, Dr. Dale, Darren Davis,
Thank you,
Miss
sir.
Ellis, for joining us on It's Fine, the Fine Arts Podcast for Broken Arrow Schools on the Arrow Vision Network. We'll see you next time.